places where the kingdom of heaven has already come in. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while wind from God swept over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory. Then the King will say to those on his right hand, "Come, you that are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food, or thirsty and gave you something to drink? And when was it that we saw you a stranger and welcomed you, or naked and gave you clothing? And when was it that we saw you sick or in prison and visited you?" And the King will answer them, "Truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these who are members of my family, you did it to me."
My mother, Ruth W. Findley, and my father, William N. Findley, taught me that a painting could show the traces of God passing through when even the artist didn't realize God was around. In passages like John 4:23, Jesus suggests that even though the realm of God will be fully realized and fully complete only at the end of time, part of the realm of God has already arrived. Art can show us the places where the realm of God has already sneaked in. And the good news is you hardly have to wait for life's end in 20 or 30 years to experience the realm of God for yourself. You don't have to wait unless you say, "Oh, what does it matter to me now? I have my whole life to live. I'll worry about it later." The truth of the matter is the kingdom of heaven has everything to do with the quality of life you are living now. Do you seek greater and greater thrills because the excitement of each thrill wears out and you have to find one that goes to still greater extreme? Then this is for you. Are you trying to find your place in the world, and just as you feel on top of it all, someone who has a better track record or better grade shoves you out? Then this is for you. Have you ever found that the person in the out group is the person you really liked, but you let that friendship slip through your fingers because you wanted to prove yourself socially? Then this is for you. Because there's a special underpinning to life that none of our usual pursuits touch. Many Christians call that underpinning God. To be honest, the natural world, trees, flowers, animals, and their habits do not tell us much about the nature of God. But when we create something, whether it be in art, cooking, music, or quilt making, we can learn through that very act a lot about the nature of God who created the universe. The act of creating tells us even more about God when it is seconded by Jesus' own sayings. Now, most people think artists are loners. It's my painting, and I am not going to let anyone else contribute. Not my mother. All her life, she had a group of people critique her paintings. To her, anybody could have a good insight, even a 12-year-old kid. So she asked me, "Do you like my painting?" Well, you know what happens when you ask a 12-year-old kid, "Do you like my painting?" I said, "No," thinking that would be the end of it. But she said, "But why? But why?" And I had to explain myself until I had given a good answer. So in spite of myself, Mom had invited me into the process of creation. She could have stopped my contribution to her art by saying, "What right does a kid have telling me there's something wrong with my paintings?" When I started critiquing my mother's pictures, I was good at judging and throwing out quickly. But as I matured, I learned that we often tell others to throw out much more than they need to throw out, that sometimes we condemn too easily. When I started and I came across a painting I didn't like, I'd say, "I don't like it, Mom." What I really meant was, "Throw it away, Mom, it's no good." As I matured, I would say, "If you cut off 3 inches here and another 3 inches there, if you cut all that out, you'll get a good painting." As I matured still further, I said, "If you just paint this short wall red, you'll get a good painting." And when she took my advice, that swath of red had a rippling effect, making other parts of the picture scintillate and become brighter where they hadn't scintillated before. This to me was amazing because there was no way the other colors in the picture could physically change. And the red wall that started it all only took 5% of the space of the whole picture. Somebody had to put those amazing properties into paint and paper. And if so, maybe that same somebody put amazing properties into the rest of the world. And as I looked around me, those amazing properties cropped up here, there, and everywhere until everywhere I looked had a mystical sheen. That was probably the first step to my becoming a minister. God uses amazing things to draw you in. Artists like Mom teach us to see what we miss in our daily round of activities. You might think teaching people to see isn't really spiritual. After all, God is invisible. So all things of God that really matter are also invisible, right? Then why did God go to the trouble to create us and to create the world or cause it to evolve? I think it was for something physical to orchestrate so God's movement and power could come alive to be seen and felt by someone else. You can't see the wind unless you see it push the leaves around or feel it brush your cheek. Belief in God makes us look at the things around us more closely because it's in God's orchestration of events that we see God working in our lives. Just as the first brushstroke on a canvas spurs us to keep painting, so God suddenly shoves things in our past that we can't let go until we have taken care of them. But taking a really close look at things, that's scary for people when they already get so many things thrown at them at once, especially in this world of technological streaming. So sometimes we use God as an excuse to prioritize, turn off, and tune out whole areas of life, and then reject the people who enjoy these things because their interests are too boring. Many of Mom's paintings are of life as it is without prioritizing. Back alleys with the electric meters, weeds, lawn chairs with ripped seats we had forgotten existed, while we lead our friends up a beautifully manicured front yard. Mom showed life with throwaway things back in and made it beautiful. Mom wasn't afraid of beauty, as some modern artists have been afraid of beauty, because hers isn't sentimental. She showed the garish look-at-me advertisement in St. Mark's famous ornate facade in Venice. She showed that gritty realism and beauty can go together. She sees patterns in haphazard throwaways and inner color lighting up storage piles that no one sees except to shove aside in order to pile on more boxes. Her colors appear to seep through from some other realm, stepping off real-life colors until junk glows like jewels. Yes, Mom painted scenes with throwaway items back in. Jesus noticed throwaway people. People you walk by on a city street and not notice. And Jesus put people left out in the back alleys back in the picture. And once they were back in the picture, there was now a richness to life that Jesus dared call the kingdom of heaven. Mom shows that there's a richness to life when we notice the throwaways our culture would like us to ignore. There's a richness to life when we dare look behind the poster board simplicity, often represented by the media and its slogans. That's the first step. When we look beneath surfaces we're expected to concentrate on, that's when we find God. An example is this cathedral. Mom often painted paintings that were highly structured and substantial like this cathedral. At first it seems that the lights and shadows in this picture give the cathedral its structure and bulk. Most shadows seem gray to the naked eye, but in this picture her shadows have color. It's as if she magnifies those shadows so their colored components come out so that you can see them. It's as if something misty and spiritual is coming through and pooling in the shadows. It's as if she caught on paper something that flitted by too fast for human eyes to see, or we just caught at the edge of our vision. In this painting, it's as if she caught the iridescent trail of angels' wings still clinging to the buttresses of the cathedral. For me, that's a picture of the kingdom of heaven coming into being right here, right now, in the midst of solid reality. Mom's paintings also show me what it is to have faith. They show me that you don't have to simplify everything in order to be happy, that God deliberately created a complex world to make us happy. Mom's paintings are complex and wholesome. And you don't usually think of those two things together, but her complexity delivers a thrill that makes it unnecessary to flirt with ever more daredevil stunts. It's the thrill of finding ever new worlds to explore right in front of your nose. In many of her pictures, things are hidden from view by something in front of them, but those cutoffs make you want to keep looking around up and down and crosswise to find out what those things cut off really are. There's a sense that there is something new and exciting around the next corner, like a new gift shop to wander around in, or that those wavy abstract shapes will become the Rocky Mountains, reflected in the store windows of a resort town. Even the shapes that look confusing at first do not frustrate you because somehow you know they're like those odd shapes you see along a highway, but as you get closer, they turn into something you know. Faith in God gives you the courage to penetrate mystery and enjoy discovery when you can't picture what's going to happen next. You've become just like a child, waiting for a great adventure just around the corner. Wasn't it Jesus who said, "You can't enter the kingdom of heaven unless you become like a child"? Matthew 18:3. I come from a family of engineers. My husband was an engineer. 2 stepchildren are engineers beside my father. And the more intricate the puzzles they chose to work on, the more childlike their enjoyment. Now, at first, my father wasn't that interested in art. And when I entered seminary, he told me he didn't believe in God. He never picked up a brush that I saw. But at 76, Dad went blind. What was the first thing Dad did when he went blind? Start painting pictures. That's the last thing you think a blind person would do. How did Dad make the leaps? Through engineering and metallurgy. He had taken pictures of metal in stress, and they looked exactly like abstract paintings. So even though he couldn't see well enough to reproduce a table and chairs on a piece of paper, he could paint colors and shapes. He could convey the energy of the basic building blocks of life in a striated brushstroke. Some of his paintings are like action paintings. And when he painted them, he just let things happen. One day when he just let things happen, he painted a picture of exactly what he said he didn't believe in, the realm of God. He painted pictures of hay wagons with ruts behind them and farmhouses from his Illinois childhood, and then a gate with a clef on it. His passion was music. And there are those same ruts going through those gates. And what's beyond those gates? Pastel mountains, the color of stained glass. If that's not a picture saying music is the entrance to the kingdom of heaven, I don't know what is. Remember I said at the beginning, a painting can show traces of God passing through when the artist didn't even realize God was around. Art can show us the places where the kingdom of heaven has already snuck in. Well, this painting is proof.